All right, good afternoon and welcome back to the channel. It is morning recording this, but you're going to see this 3 p.m. UK time. It will be 6 p.m. from me where I am. But we need to talk about the state pension. If you've been paying attention to the news over the past couple of days, this would have been in the news. So you'll hopefully be aware of this. If you're not, then I'll be your news source and I welcome the idea of being your news source. There is a conversation that needs to be had around this news piece. Whilst the news itself is positive, it is raising a lot of questions in the pension sphere around what we need to do next. And there is also a conversation around what needs to be done to prevent people from paying tax on their state pension in a matter of a few years from now. So, this video is going to be full of information. I'm going to scribe just to give you a visual aid to understand what we're talking about here. But before we jump into all of that, if you're finding this channel for the first time, welcome. If you get value from this, you like the way I've explained things and you have learned something, you think it's really educational, informative, then can I please ask you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell? It just means that when I upload another video like this, you will get a notification to say that Pete has uploaded and it will suggest that you watch the video. And if you return, I will be just grateful for your presence and for your attention on the channel. My mission is to grow the channel through the rest of this year and to bump up the views. So if you can hit the like button as well, it will just give a signal to the algorithm that you actually enjoyed the information that I've shared in this video. And that in turn will mean that it gets pushed out to other people who may benefit from what we're talking about. Now that's out of the way, let's have a look at this first article. There are about three that we need to go through. So the first one is from BBC, says state pension likely to rise by 4.7% in April. That is April 2026. Now, the reason why this is the case is because of the triple lock. And we've spoken about the triple lock quite a bit here on the channel. And under the triple lock policy, the state pension goes up each year by either 2.5% inflation or average earnings growth, whichever of those figures is highest. Now, the bank rate, because of inflation, has remained a little bit high. We know that we've seen energy prices, food prices still increase. Obviously, with inflation, it is higher than the 2.5% benchmark that is often used for the triple lock. And wages haven't outstripped inflation at this point in time, even though wage growth has occurred. So, as it currently stands, the calculation, and this is by the Office of National Statistics, the total pay, including bonuses for the 3 months to July, was 4.7%, which is likely to be the figure for used for the annual increase. Now, it's worthwhile noting a couple of things, okay? And that is how this translates depending on which version of the state pension you're on. So remember, you've got the new state pension and you've got the old state pension. So the latest wage figures from ONS likely means the following: that the new flat rate state pension for those who reach retirement or pension age after April of 2016 is expected to rise by £241 and 5 pence a week. That will take it to £12,534 and 60 pence a year, a rise of 561.60 compared with now. What I want you to do though is pay attention to the number 12,534.60. That's an important number for a conversation that we're going to have shortly. On the old basic state pension, this is for those who have reached pension age before April of 2016. It's expected to go up by £184.75 a week, and that will take it to 9,607 a year, a rise of 431.60. The difference between the old state pension and the new state pension is actually quite large. I mean, look, 12,534 to 9,607. That's a big difference. And maybe that's a conversation for another video altogether. But what I want you to do, like I've already mentioned here, is just take note of the 12,534. What I also think is worthwhile just pointing out is this element in another article here. So it says here, how many people actually get the state pension and which version of the state pension do people get? So there's around 13.1 million state pensioners, according to Department of Work and Pension figures issued in August. The majority, so 8.4 million, are on the old basic state pension, meaning that we have more people who are effectively going to be in this arena than those who are going to be getting the new state pension. And so, for what we're going to go on and talk about, you're probably not going to be impacted by some of the ideas that I'm going to introduce because it's going to take you longer to get there from a tax position because of the way the old basic state pension is going to ratchet because of the triple lock. Really, really worthwhile having in the back of your mind for this. Now, in this article, which I'm just going to go back to, it just gives you a graph here of what's basically happened in terms of the measurement of the triple lock and what is actually applied. So, this is the base 2.5%. They've not really labeled this properly, I'm assuming, because that that color right there, that graph right there is CPI, which is inflation. This is going to be wage growth. So as you can see, wage growth hasn't really kept up with CPI at any point really, and because of their reporting periods, they're using, I guess, the higher number over this period of time. But worthwhile just bearing in mind just in terms of how it actually works. Now, in this article right here, and this article is actually from the Telegraph, because of the increase that we're going to see to both the basic old state pension and the new state pension, the triple lock is going to add £6 billion onto the benefits bill. And this is where we get into the wider conversation. So, like I've already said, let me just go full screen here really quickly. As I've already said, this is good news that the state pension is going to go up for those of you who are in receipt of it currently. But it brings into focus again this idea of the triple lock and if it's sustainable. Now, we've had this conversation a number of times on the channel where unfortunately, there is not a pot of money set aside to fund the state pension. The state pension is funded from the tax take of the current working population. And it just feels like when you look at the numbers, and it's not really a question of feeling, what the stats, what the numbers are telling us is that if you fast forward 10 to 15 years from now, we are not going to have a young enough working population to be able to fund those of us who are going to be in that retirement phase, receiving the state pension. And because of that, and the way that the state pension cost ratchets up, there is a big, big cry to either get rid of the triple lock altogether, which at the moment, well, as of the last general election, all the political parties have committed to, but the pressure is on. And Nigel Farage, I think, has been noted or, I guess, challenged to state his stance on the triple lock as it currently is, as it seems that he's going to be the next prime minister come the next general election. So this is definitely a topic of contention, one that needs to be debated and needs to be looked at. And we know that they are open to having that debate in Parliament. But just going back to the article here, that's how much it's going to add to the benefits system. Now, this is what we need to have a look at because as it currently stands, this is where we currently are with the state pension in terms of the projection, the forecast for the state pension. As you can see here, between what now really, which is this point right here, and 2020, well, 2068, you're seeing a massive boost, a massive rise in the upward curve, which represents the cost to the government. And when you go all the way down here, this is the bit that I really want to talk about. It is, well, because of the triple lock and because the current increase to the state pension that will happen in April takes you close to your personal allowance, you are at some point going to get to the point where you are going to have to start paying tax on your state pension. As you can see here, you can see on this graph where it takes you to. So by 2029, 2030, which is not far from now, the state pension is on track to be at 13,487. This is the new state pension, by the way. And this only looks at the new state pension from what I can see here. We don't know how it tracks for the old basic state pension. But on the new state pension, you are definitely going to be in tax paying territory. And this is something that has always been a bit of a contention that because the state pension is a benefit, you shouldn't have to pay any tax on said benefit, especially given the fact that you've worked and you paid into the system to be able to receive this. Now, on previous episodes and videos that I've made on this channel, we've spoken about the fact that this is something that Rishi Sunak and the Tories were debating. Is it going to be a question of moving the basic rate allowance, your personal allowance, to accommodate for state pensioners? But I think that becomes a little bit complicated. So let me just, this is where we go to the scribe, okay? So this is the scribe, just to really break this down for you for easy understanding. So this right here is the current, make sure this works. This right here is the current personal allowance. And this is what everyone can earn before they start to pay tax. So that's your tax free element. You can currently earn £12,570 tax free. What we know is under the new state pension, with the increase that is coming, it's going to take it to 12,534.60, if my memory serves me correctly. Now, according to the graph in the article, when you get to the first instance where tax is possibly going to be due on your state pension is going to be in 2027, 28, because the state pension, according to the triple lock, will rise to 12,837. Now, just to be clear, you're not paying tax on this full amount. You're paying tax on the additional amount over and above 12,570. So in this instance, it's not going to be a lot of tax. If you're a 20% taxpayer, then it's minuscule, right? But if we start getting into an environment where, say, in 2028, 29, it's set to rise to 13,158. Obviously, that's a little bit more. Now, I've spoken about this previously in videos, and people have said, well, it's going to be a small amount. Okay, it's going to be a small amount, but that is relative to people's individual circumstances. We unfortunately live in a world right now where £20 makes a huge difference to someone. And if that has to be paid away to the tax man in some way, shape, or form, that is obviously going to impact how people feel and what people are going to be able to afford, especially backed up with the stats that typically when someone reaches the ages of 65 in the UK, the average pension pot is only £150,000. So a lot of people really depend on the state pension. Now, what is the fix for this? The fix would be to raise this, which might seem like a really simple fix, but then you start to ask questions of, okay, so do they do this for everyone, or do they do this for state state pensioners specifically in receipt of the state pension? I don't know. That needs to be worked out in the detail. And the second question is, well, do you raise it every year in response to the triple lock? Or do you just make it a number, let's say £15,000 per year, so you've got some headroom for years to come? These are all conversations that need to be had. So this is something again that the Tories were looking at, and I think definitely needs to be debated in Parliament. But I feel like if you are in that region where state pension is going to start becoming a reality for you, depending whether you're getting old or new, and if you're getting new for sure, it's going to be a conversation piece. But yeah, what do we do? What does the government do? What is the decision? How do they tackle this? Because, the idea of being taxed on your state pension isn't necessarily one that is. Actually, let me ask you this. If you're currently in receipt of state pension, or you're going to be receiving state pension, whether you're on the old or new, how do you feel about paying tax on the state pension? Is it a big deal, or are you not really that bothered? I'd love to know in the comment section down below, because I think for these conversations, we need to kind of gauge what the public reaction is. And for all intents and purposes, forgive the pun, but you guys are the test test dummies, I guess, right? If that is the right term. But let me know what you think in the conversation, in the comment section down below. I think ultimately the question of what happens with the triple lock is going to be an ongoing debate. We don't know. The politicians have to make the decision on that. Should it be something that we debate and should be a point of debate in party manifestos? I think it definitely should. But if we look back at the last two general elections, we've lacked substance in those debates. So what I anticipate happening is in the next general election is it will be about immigration and things like the state pension, things like tax cuts, things like or tax rises will probably go by the wayside because immigration and the like seem to be where the political temperature and pressure exists currently, and that's just unfortunate because an attention on that, albeit an important topic, just gets us focused on one small part of the wider conversation, and that needs to change, in my opinion. But let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. If you did get benefit from this, you thought this was interesting, you like describe the explanation, then also give me a bit of a like, smash that like button because that will just signal to the algorithm that you enjoyed it.